Hello everyone. Today, or I'm not sure if it's going to be multiple videos, but we're going to be going over basically a grappling hook that also allows you to swing on it after it's been attached. Now it is a little bit buggy for that second bit, so we're also going to be doing just one that grapples and then sets you down first, and then I think the next part will probably end up being another video because this is going to take quite a long time to get all this stuff, but this is the result. As you can see, and we can go up and down on the grappling hook and swing around like this, drop down with circle or X, and then aim in here. If we can get the spot properly. There we go. And then, of course, we swing over here to the other side. There's quite a bit of logic in here I'm going to go over before we go ahead and start from scratch. So we have our puppet logic here. It's a huge mess. Don't even bother trying to figure it out, because we're going to be going over it, and it's going to be a lot cleaner than this. I was completely experimenting with most of this stuff, but this is the aim, which is done by a camera rig, as you can see here. It's just two boxes and a connector, and then we get the camera rig follower here. It's just a teleporter. This is where the center is, so when we hit play, it follows the player around, like so. And next is our two hook logic bits. So we have the hook end, and we have the hook start. Basically what this does is, this guy is looking where you're looking at. It gets a point from the player, which is a laser scope here, and if it doesn't hit that, then it's just standard distance away, which is this, and that's from a tag, and it will move there, or teleport, move there, and then once you grapple, it will move from here to the spot you're aiming at. And then once it hits that spot, if it finds a grappling spot tag, it will teleport there and then begin to look at the player or the other grappling hook end. Right here, hook start. So this graphic here, these three lines will look better than if it wasn't looking at it. It'd twist around and stuff if it didn't do that, so there's that. And it's a bunch of logic in here, as you can see. And then on here, this basically says when that guy is attached, we're going to move ourselves forward, and when we hit the thing, we're going to let our rope here, this string connector, take advantage of the situation, and we're also going to be able to move around, and we're also going to get the controller input for moving around, and then we're also going to set the string with our connector with L1 and R1, so the length of it can go up and down. That's pretty glitchy because it doesn't like to shrink, because the connector is rigid, meaning that if you shrink it, it doesn't actually like go up and down. It like teleports basically. So I think something that would help with that, though, is if I put down a signal manipulator here, and put down some output smoothing. I just want to see if this works before we get going. I just thought of this just now, so might as well give it a try, right? I mean, better than jumping around like it used to, if anything. Alright. Let me try that again. I don't think it's gonna help, but we'll see. Oh hey, that... No. Still kind of glitchy, yeah. And you can definitely move around way too fast. 5 meters a second is a bit much. Oh well, looks good. I just have that box visible in play mode for testing purposes, but hey, that's just the overview, so let's go ahead and get started. So I'm gonna go to our empty scene here. Just ignore all this stuff. Let me find our empty scene. Here it is. Load current save. There it is. So now we got just our dude in here. This is what you're going to be able to play with when you get started. And we also got our connector up here. That's just a model, I believe. Yeah, it's just a model, so there's no tags on it whatsoever. There isn't one here yet. So it's just this, and then this basic map for you to work with. So I believe first thing that we're going to get started on, because it's the easiest, is the camera rig. So the camera rig is what's going to let us aim up and down. So we're actually going to do a couple things with that. So first we're going to get we're going to go to the modes menu, go to sculpt mode. Go ahead and do L and triangle to set the stamp, then just stamp down a cube. And we're going to go ahead and open up the properties, then we're going to go to the physical properties. And open the properties with L and square quickly. And we want to make it invisible and not collidable. Go ahead and close that menu, and then go to the show hide menu, your assembly bar, and turn off preview invisibility. That way you can see it. And now that we can see it, we can work with it. And we're going to go ahead and turn on the grid. And I'm going to do about quarter snap. And I'm going to align to the grid. And I'm going to go ahead and get it lined up how I think it's going to look like. And this basically acts as an anchor point. So when we have this up here, we don't have to mess with the teleporter settings all too much. This is just for the camera itself. So it's kind of like an over-the-shoulder view. And we're going to need to get 2 so we can look up and down. Like so. And next, we're going to go ahead and get our connector from our connectors menu. It's going to be a bolt. And we want to do from the middle of the bottom one to the middle of the top. And you want to do it in that order. Not top first, because then the connector will be backwards and this will move instead of that. Alright, and now that should move up and down like so, which is good. That's what we want. And we're going to go ahead and group these two together so it's one object. Go and scope into the group we just made. Open our logic and processing section. Get a microchip. Go ahead and stamp that on. Open up the microchip. And then we're going to go ahead and go to the cameras and lighting section. We're going to go grab a camera. And we're going to rotate it around. And we're going to stamp it in the real world first. So it's basically in the position we want. And then when we move it onto the microchip, it's going to keep that position that way. we're able to perfectly center our raycast in the middle of this guy instead of it being slightly off center. Right? Next, we're going to go ahead and let's see here. What do we want to do next? Well, let's go ahead and organize ourselves a little bit. So let's rename our microchip here to AIM. And give the controller, make it green, I guess. And we're going to go ahead and get a... There's a couple ways we can do this. If you want to make it a little bit more expensive, you can use wireless, which is a lot cleaner. So I'm going to use that. But if you want to, you can run direct wires and use nodes to help organize yourself. But I'm going to use wireless stuff, so I'm going to go ahead and get a wireless receiver now, and I'm going to change it so the zone size is the entire scene, and this is for if we are aiming, and then I'm going to get one for if for our controls, like looking up and down itself. Next, we're going to go ahead and get a timeline, and this is going to be how we actually look up and down. So go ahead and open that up, and we're going to go and go to our animate menu and get a keyframe as well. Stamp that down to the beginning of the timeline. Go to our guides, change to precise move, so we are able to get an exact measurement that isn't 45 degrees, because that's a little bit too less. I want to do about, let's say 50 degree. And then we'll copy this keyframe to 1 second. I'm going to delete that data. And then 50 degrees up. Well, that's not enough, so we have to do 70. 70 seems good. So that's 20% increase, and we want to make it even on both sides, unfortunately. Even if it doesn't look like it'll be good for looking down, we have to have it even, or else we're not going to look forward in the middle between these two. So hold down L1 and X in between the keyframes to get that in between linear shape. And then we're going to go ahead and try to center the timeline so we can work easily on the logic first. And then we're going to go ahead and get a timer. And this timer is actually what's going to control the position of our playhead. So open up the properties of the timer, and we're going to change it to 1 second long. And the current time we're going to change to 0.5 second. And you can now input values directly with L1 and square. So if you didn't know that, now you can. And we're going to go ahead and get the timer output and plug it in directly into the playhead on the timeline. And now our up and down aim is going to be directly centered. Next, we're going to want to go ahead and make sure that this timer is on speed. So that way, when we are pushing down on the stick, it will aim down. When we're pushing up, it will aim up. And it's going to do that from the timer position, basically. So pushing up is going to make the timer count up, which will move our timeline to the right, like so. And I think, actually, Media Molecule developers, their preference is backwards, so we're going to actually have to reverse the keyframes on this timeline, because they believe that up and down is down and up, basically. It's just, they think it's reversed for some reason. Don't know why, but hey. It's like they're used to flying simulators and not FPS. If you want it reversed, then go ahead and do that, I guess. keep it the way it was. Alright, and next we're going to go ahead and just plug in one of our wireless receivers into that start timer input. And then we're going to plug in this wireless receiver into our camera here. And I'm actually going to plug it into our wireless receiver for our input. And we're going to go ahead and set the settings for these in a moment here. So we got to get the input from the player. Well, actually that's not entirely true, because I discovered that even if you're not using the stick at the moment, if you use the stick at all, the right stick, the camera will not move with it, even if you don't need the input. So basically, we want to get a second controller sensor from our sensors and input section. Go and delete all the wires from it. Open the properties. Go to important properties, which is the second to last tab. Change possession mode to remote controllable. And then we're going to go ahead and get our third page, right stick local output. And that's going to go ahead and be split with a splitter in a logic and processing section. And then we want up and down, so that is Y, and that's going to go into our start timer. And then, of course, the signal from our transmitter is going to go into our controller sensor here. For power, that is. There we go. And one last thing, I believe, is we need a reticle or target, anything like that. So go to movers and output, and we're going to get a text displayer. And this is going to not have text box or border. Then we want to go to the third to last and change the horizontal alignment and vertical alignment to middle and center. That way it's going to be in the middle of your screen. Go ahead and go to the text field, and we want to do less than, and then type in UI target, and then greater than, and that's going to give us this reticle right here. You can change the text color to white. You can change the size if you want. It's a bit big by default, but now we got a nice target basically. Crosshair. And I'm going to go ahead and put all of this logic into a separate microchip. And we're going to call this, we're going to rename this bigger logic chip aimer. The smaller logic chip is going to be aim. And the reason why we're splitting it up is because we also want to do the raycast logic on this block here. So I'm just selecting everything and moving it all inside so it's self-contained. Just tidying up a little bit, you know, make it so it's not a rat's nest. Alright. And now, what do we need to do? What do we need to do? Well, there's a lot of things we need to do, to be honest. And that would be raycast. One of them, so this is, we'll do aim position. This is the name of this microchip. And that's going to be this icon, and we'll do white. The color, we go ahead and make our microchips smaller. Or, you know, you could just make yourself bigger for no reason, because of glitch. That's nice. Oh, great. Yeah, it doesn't want to go any smaller than that. Okay. I think that's from moving our logic onto our next microchip, which is this one. How unfortunate. How unfortunate. Okay. Well, oh well. Doesn't really matter. Aim pause. This microchip. In this one, we want basically a laser scope. So if we go to our sensors and input, we're going to get a laser scope. Excuse me. We also want a tag, and this is going to give us our default position. And we're going to go ahead and select our laser scope. As you can see, it's pretty much directly dead center of where that camera is going to be. Open up that. And we're going to get our guides menu, turn on grid snap, move that arrow forward, and it's directly middle in the center of that camera. Going to open up the laser scope settings, change the range to 10 meters. That's basically how far you're going to be able to aim with your grappling hook. If you want it any longer than that, you can do that. I just think 10 meters is a good amount. Next, we want to go ahead and open up the properties of the laser scope. And we're going to move it off to the side for a second. Then we're going to go ahead and open up the properties of the tag. And what we want is we're going to go ahead and sync up this tag's position with our laser scope at the very end. So we know it's at 10 meters distance. Like so. There we go. So now 10 meters away regardless of where we're aiming. Now we're going to basically switch between these two positions depending on if we're actually hitting something with this or not. So we want to get 2 nodes, select both of them, make them no port. Nodes are in your logic and processing section, by the way, forgot to mention that. And we are going to get a splitter from a logic and processing section as well. We're going to go ahead and open up the tag properties. We're going to split the scene space transform. That's going to give us a position or translation. That's going to go into our bottom node. Excuse me. And next we're going to go ahead and our laser scope. We want to get a NOT gate for that. And the hit something is going to go into the NOT gate property, or not properties, just input. And then we're going to open up the properties of our bottom node. And the NOT gate is going to plug into our power here. So basically when we don't hit something, we want to give out this default value. Next, we're going to go ahead and open up the laser scope, go to the hit detail outputs, and we want the hit position. That's going to go ahead and go into our node at the top here. And then we're going to move this node actually to the right. And it's going to be an output port. And we're going to have this input down here go into here as well from the node. Go ahead and rename this node that outputs to position. And now we have the position of where we're aiming. And we're going to need that for later. So next, we want to go ahead and set up our wireless receiver in here. So we want to get the aim from our puppet, basically. So I'm going to go ahead and open this up. And as you can see, it's the basic puppet. So I'm going to go ahead and place down a new microchip in here. This one will be our aim logic. Said aim logic. There it is. And let's do white with the gear. And we want to get what we're going to be doing to aim. In this case, if you want to equip your thing, you're going to be adding in like a ton of proprietary logic. and other stuff, but for directly, we want to just aim from L2 basically. So I'm going to open up our logic chip here, and I'm going to go ahead and get a calculator. This calculator is just saying that if we press L2 at all, we're going to go ahead and output, because if we make this remote controllable, we get a percentage output, which is fine for some things like racing. But if we want for aiming, we want that to be a 1-to-1 output. So we're going to have this L2 button output, and we're also going to get a node here, and this is going to be for start or just aim, I guess. And we're going to plug that L2 into that node. This node is going to plug into the A port of our calculator. Open up the properties of the calculator, and we're going to change this from add, which would add A and B together and output the result, to greater than. So now, if A is greater than B, it will output 1. So now we're going to be able to tell if we're aiming at all with L2. Alright, and next we want to get the, well no, we don't need that now. Just basically need to see if we're aiming. So we want to get wireless transmitter now. And go ahead and plug in the calculator output into our wireless transmitter. And we're going to name this to is aiming. And we're going to open up the properties of our wireless receiver on our aimer and use the D-pad to select is aiming. Alright. Next, we probably want to put our player in some pose. I'm going to get a keyframe here. I'm going to turn off grid snap. I'm going to scope into our puppet here, if we're not already, and just put it into some kind of aiming pose for our grappling hook, even though we don't have a model here. I'm being lazy. I don't want to do a grappling hook model. Alright, so now we got that. Better than nothing. And we're going to go and plug that into our calculator as well. Alright. And that will do for that. Actually, no, it won't. Because we want to be able to aim up and down and left and right. So, for left and right, we want to copy our controller sensor from our aimer. And we're going to go and plop it down in our aim logic, because again, we're going to be using the right stick. And so we want to get another splitter from our logic and processing section. Open up the controller sensor properties. We want to go to the third page and get right stick local. That's not modified by the camera, by the way. So basically it doesn't change any of your outputs, which is good. Now we want to get a rotator. Just a basic one. Open up properties. 100%, 100%, and the speed is fine. But this arrow or gizmo thing, we want that to face up. So turn on grid snap and then pull up this little doohickey gizmo here. And now, if we hook up left and right to our rotation speed, I think it's also reversed, so we may want to reverse this from 180 to negative 180 degrees. And now it will be able to turn left and right. And I'm also going to turn that on with our result from the calculator. Alright, now let's see how that looks. Well, we do rotate, but I forgot one thing, and that would be to teleport the cube here. We want to teleport the rig to the player. So I'm going to go ahead and add a tag to our player. And we want to name this tag, let's see here, player, I guess. And we want to make sure that this gizmo is set up properly. A lot of the time it won't be, because Y is up and X should be on this side actually. And that's because of the placement of the motherboard down here, or not motherboard, just a microchip, that's what it's called. So I'm going to go ahead and pitch it up so Y is up, and X is going to go ahead, I'm going to reverse this so X is on this side. Next, we're going to want to go ahead and group this cube here with our camera rig. I'm going to scope into the group, and then scope in again. And I'm going to select both of the cubes in our camera rig here, and I'm going to give them no density at all. So that way, they aren't affected, they don't affect the teleporter on our cube here. Next, I'm going to go ahead and grab a microchip, and this is just going to be TP, and I'm basically making a microchip in case you want to put any other logic on here in the future, which you may want, but for now, we're just going to go to the movements and output section, grab a teleporter, put it down. Tag name is going to be player, and we want it to match target orientation as well. As you can see, it doesn't teleport properly right away, which is fine, because since we added no weight to that, we can actually delete the gizmo, and it'll resnap to the center of this cube, which is where we want it. Exactly. So now, if we aim, we can walk around and look left and right, up and down. Great. Now it's entirely up to you if you want your player to move around, but if you do want your player to move around, I do recommend that you turn off rotational speed in the puppet properties setting with your keyframe here, and I also recommend you make it so they can't run. So they can't turn and they can't run with this keyframe here. So when you're aiming, basically the control is directly up to the rotator right here. And we also want this camera here. We're going to go to the properties and change the transition time to 0 seconds. So we instantly aim like this. Now I can strafe left and right because we don't have that turning speed. And I can turn around, look up and down like so. Works great. Now we just need the grappling hook part. And we spent about 25 minutes just making this camera rig. Yay! Okay, so yeah. Now that we have that, we want to do the actual grappling hook. So we're gonna do the easier implementation first, which hopefully doesn't take too much time. We want to go ahead and grab one of these cubes here, so I'm going to scope in and just copy it. So now we just have a cube, and this is going to be our hook end. And to start off our hook end, we're actually going to place down a tag on our little grappling spot right here. And then I'm going to go ahead and move this spot over like this, so teleporting to the direct center of this red bit. Now there's probably going to be things in your game that aren't as perfect as this, which is fine for grappling onto, but just remember it needs that tag here, and we need to name it to grappling spot, or grapple spot, that works. And I'm going to go ahead and move this guy over here as well. I'm just going to leave him here for now, because we're not doing the spinning around or moving stuff yet. I mean, that stuff is still pretty buggy on my end. I need to fix that. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but hopefully I can, because it's, as you could see earlier, it's not really in a good state. Where's our cube? Here it is. Okay. Next, we're going to go ahead and grab a microchip from our logic and processing section. I'm actually going to turn on the grid so I can go ahead and put it directly in the middle. No. There we go. Go ahead and name this hook end. And we'll do this hand to signify grabbing. We get a nice deep green color. Alright. So, first off, we want to be able to go to where our position is, which is not this, but this right here. So we're going to go ahead and add a wireless transmitter here. And this is just going to be aim position. I'm going to plug that in. And then we're going to get a wireless receiver from our sensors and input. Place that down. Go ahead and get aim pause selected. Change the zone shape to the scene. And now we get the position input from the camera. Excuse me. That was just my chair. And next we're going to go ahead and grab a follower here. And this follower is going to go ahead and move to our position that we're aiming at. And we're going to go ahead and just hook that up directly for now. From target, we're going to plug in the wireless receiver input into our target position. Then we're going to go ahead and change the follow mode to the maximum speed possible. So 99999. And of course strength 100, overall dampening 100. So now, if we go ahead and make this visible, just for our testing purposes, we can see where we aim. And you can see it snap to surfaces, basically, which is good. That's what we want. Okay. Now let's do some critical thinking. Hopefully, this will transfer onto you, because I had to do a lot of critical thinking when I was trying to come up with a thought process on how to make the grappling hook myself. I mean, there's no tutorial for me, now is there? Excuse me about that. I accidentally ended the recording, so I was recording for 5 minutes before I realized I wasn't recording. So, okay. Yeah, critical thinking. Well, I already did this critical thinking for 5 minutes, so, basically, we know that we have a spot that we want to connect to. We have a way to detect it with the grappling spot tag. So we probably want to put down something that is able to detect the tag, which would be a trigger zone. So let's go ahead and pop that down here. Let's set it up before we do anything else. So we want to have it detect a tag with the name grapple spot. And this size seems decent, but I think it's a little bit too generous, so let's do 1.5 meters instead of 2. And next, let's see. Well, I know we want some kind of animation, because just teleporting to the spot wouldn't be very fun, or it wouldn't look good at all. So we can't really animate with keyframes, because that's between two fixed points in space, unless you do some magic with grouping, which I don't feel like doing right now, and that's not what I did in the prototype. So we're going to be doing something else that is a little bit less complicated, but still kind of complicated, which is why we're going to be using something from the Dreamverse. But we basically want to get between point A and B in about a second. So we're going to get a timer. And we're going to get 1 for the target time. And current time is 0. Yeah. And so we basically want to go from our player, or where our hook start is going to be, to the point that we're grappling onto, or at least where we're aiming at. And we also want to be able to like firmly attach to that point. And followers aren't exactly the best thing for that, so we're actually going to use a teleporter as well as a follower just to attach. I'm going to turn that off for now. And we just want to match target position, and that's going to be grapple spot. And we don't want that to have that. So now we want to be able to animate between this position and then also a position later that we haven't set up, which is the grappling hook spot in the beginning. So we're going to go ahead and let's see. Well, we want to get lerp. It's a mathematical function. It's very standard in most game engines, but Dreams doesn't have a mathematical function gadget that you could just plug in things to get numbers from, unfortunately. So we have to make it ourselves, or we can use one from the Dreamverse. And I think I'm going to use one from the Dreamverse because I trust Fort. I know what he's doing. I know he knows what he's doing. So I'm going to go ahead and open this up and just explain it a little bit. Basically, we're taking the difference between start and end by subtracting start from end. And we're taking that difference, multiplying it by time, which is going to be the output from our timer here, timer output, and that's 0 to 1. And we're going to go ahead and add on to that. So we're basically going to, over time, go between the start and the end by adding the difference by calculating it. And it's just something very simple that we can use from the Dreamverse. You can go ahead and make it yourself if you want. You should be able to basically tell what this is. If not, and you want to do it yourself, then I suggest trying to learn the tools on your own, like I did, instead of watching a tutorial where I baby you through everything, you know. I feel like some of you guys out there should really do a full dive into the tools. Just look and experiment, you know? That's what I did back in Little Big Planet. Like, that's how I learned how to use all these gadgets. Just going in, digging, getting my hands dirty, you know? That's how I figured out how to make this grappling hook. So, enough with that. We want to basically lerp between our starting position, which we don't have yet, and our end position, which is our aim. But we also want to make sure that our aim is unchanged. In order to do that, we're going to get something really simple. We're going to go to Logic and Processing. We're going to get a signal manipulator. A lot of people are intimidated by these, but it's really simple. Just plug in the signal from here, and we're going to use this freeze output input right here. Nothing else in here. Basically, that means that when you freeze it, the signal is going to change stay the same. So if I freeze this signal and delete the wire, the output is going to be that wire still, which is very nice for us because that way we can store the value very easily without having to use any variable tricks or whatnot. So now that we have that, we're going to go ahead and plug that into our end here, and I'm actually going to plug that into our target position as well, just for now. Right? Next, we want to know when we are firing. So we're going to get a couple of extra wireless receivers, and we also want one for our hook start position. So I'm going to name this hook start in the properties here. That's going to be our start here. And we want to get our fire hook, and we want to also detach from the hook, so we're going to get that as well. And we're going to get these outputs from our player over here. So we're going to make a new microchip just to try to keep things a little bit more tidy, even though it's not going to be that much of a difference. This is just going to be our grappling logic. And we're going to make this white. We're going to use that. Why not? I'm just going to get a few wireless transmitters here. And of course, it's going to be our detach and our fire. I think, what did we name this? Fire hook? Yeah. And we're going to go ahead and use the same trick we did in here, because we want to get R2 for firing the hook. And we actually need an AND gate as well. So I'm going to copy this node over from the other microchip we have for aiming. So aim, fire, and we need the aim and we need the fire in order to actually, you know, fire. So I'm going to copy the calculator again, both into A, both the nodes into A, get an AND gate from logic and processing. Calculator is going to hook up into A, the other calculator is going to hook up into B, and now AND gate goes into our fire hook. So we're only going to fire when we do L2 and R2. My battery's low, of course. Let me go ahead and plug that in. I just moved something on accident, didn't I? Okay. Next, we want to detach. Well, we know that we were going to be able to jump off, and we want to also be able to simply fall off, so we can do circle as well. I'm also going to delete circle from our depossess, because we don't want to be able to depossess our puppet. If you do, then I guess just don't use circle. But as you can see, we're already a lot cleaner than we were previously in my demo scene. So now that we have fire hook and detach, we can hook it up properly. And we're gonna go ahead and do, let's see here, what did I have? Well, detach would detach us, so we need a counter. So we're gonna go ahead and get a counter. And we want to kind of mirror this logic as well on here, and we're going to use that to actually freeze our player when this grappling process is taken hold. So we might actually want to transmit that instead. So let's see, fire hook, detach. Well, fire hook It's going to go ahead and go to the increase count. Then detach is going to go ahead and reset our count here. Going to move over our lerp. Move over our follower. And I'm going to go ahead and delete. No, we can't delete it yet. I'm going to get a node. Place that down. Make it so it has no port. Plug the signal manipulator output into our node here. That's going to go ahead and plug into our target position. Then we're going to delete the wire. And we're doing this so we can interrupt this signal with our lerp signal. And we also want, when this counter is full, to freeze that target position. So we're not going to be able to aim anywhere else once we have fired it. And we also want to start that counter here. And that's going to go ahead and be between our timer output. It's going to go into T. And then, of course, once we have fired, we want to disable that input. And we want, and when we're not fired, we want to disable this input. So we want to get the result into a different node as well. That's going to plug into our target position. And let's see here. We want to get a NOT gate. Counter is going to plug into our NOT gate, so when we are not grappling, we are going to still aim. So that's going to go into our node here. Alright. And then when we are grappling, we're going to go ahead and activate this node so we get that animation. Alright. So now we want to be able to actually attach onto the spot. So now, once this timer is finished, it's going to reset itself. And it's going to also activate an AND gate from our logic and processing section. And so is this grapple spot trigger zone. So if we detect that spot here, and this timer is done, meaning our animation is done, then we're going to go ahead and trigger another counter. And that's going to plug into our teleporter. And we want to get a NOT gate. And we're going to plug the counter into our NOT gate. The NOT gate's going to plug into our follower. So when we are attached, we're going to turn off this follower. So we're always teleporting and nothing's going to be glitching it out otherwise. And this detach input, we also want to plug that into our other counter here. Now, for demonstration, I believe this should work for the count, for this part at least, but it might end up like teleporting to right here and then like animating. So, I mean, let's see how this looks. Nothing is happening. Why is nothing happening? Oh, you know why nothing is happening? Because I forgot to plug in the inputs for here. So we gotta get the aim. And we have to get the fire button, which is R2. There we go. And we also want to reset that counter if we fail to find anything, basically, because this is going to take over for us. There we go. Now we need the actual, well, technically, we didn't see if it attaches yet, so let's do that. It does attach. There we go. You can jump and then it resets. And we can also press circle probably and reset it. Yep. Cool. So now, all we need is the hook start. And then we should be able to get the player logic set up after that, and that will be the end of this video. Because it's almost been an hour already, if it's not been an hour, so... Alright. Next, we're going to make a copy of this cube here. And I'm going to go ahead and rename this to hook start. Move a different icon. Bring it down. Actually gonna get a ruler. Where are you? There you are. Change this to 10 meters. Fortunately, we can't just put the number in. Rulers would be a lot more helpful if you could see them in sculpt mode, but you can't. I don't know why. It's unfortunate reality that we can't see it in sculpt mode. Okay, there we go. Next, just because I want to, well, first off, we have to delete everything in here because we don't need it anymore. Because this is a different logic piece than that one. So we're gonna go ahead, shrink it. Then I'm gonna get that graphic. So paint mode. This could, you don't have to do this if you don't want to, but I want some kind of graphical representation. So I'm gonna go ahead and just paint it as one stroke, or else this won't look as well as you would expect it to. Speaking of, I should probably turn off the grid. I just went past the cube, didn't I? I did. Okay. Of course. Okay. Well, this is unfortunate. I guess I'll just use rule fleck then. Or the grid. I don't know. Unfortunate. No hook end for me. Just the line. Like Spider-Man. Oh well. Gonna go ahead and change that. Have some impasto on that. Some looseness maybe. Maybe some ruffle. No ruffle. Okay. Then I'm going to group that with our cube here. Actually, scope in. I'm going to take our grappling hook, start gadgets here, and just take it out of the group because we want it on the whole cube. And then we're going to scope back in. We're going to open up the properties of the painting. We're going to make it physical. Scope out. Attached at both ends. Attach the other end to the object. It's going to be this guy right here. Floppiness, 0%. So now it's going to act like a cord or cable, basically, between the two ends. Alright, now that we have that, let's go ahead and get started with the logic. So we want to get the hook start position straight off the bat, because we know we need that. So that would be a tag. Name it hook start. And I'm going to go ahead and snap this like so. And then I'm going to go ahead and get a wireless transmitter. It's also going to be called hook start. And we need a splitter, so we can actually get the position of this tag. So now we have a tag. The position is set in the middle of the cube here. We're splitting it with a splitter and putting it to a wireless transmitter called hook start. So now, if we go and play, it's not going to be much, but as you can see, we get kind of a wonky graphic. And if we do this, now it should animate from that position, like so. Which is what we wanted. Now we want to have this guy follow our hand, because we want it to look like we're firing it out of our hand. So let's go ahead and do that. We're going to scope into our puppet here, and we're going to get a tag and place it on our hand. So I turned off grid snap. I'm going to go ahead and snap to surface with L1, make it pretty small. And I'm going to go ahead and rotate it like so. Make sure that this bit is in a nice position. Alright. Of course, you guys can be left-handed too if you want, but I'm doing this right-handed because I am right-handed. Okay. Next, we're going to go ahead and get a teleporter. I'm going to place it over here, because we're going to be messing with it quite a bit. And it's going to teleport to our left hand, which we forgot to label that tag, actually. Not left hand, right hand. Just, what did I say? Just hand. There we go. Hand. Hand. Like so. Where what? Why are you doing that? Oh, you know what? Because our teleporter, it thinks that this has mass, but it doesn't, so we just need to delete that gizmo. There we go. And we did it. Now, you can kind of see it bending a little bit. And that's what we're actually needing tags for. And we're going to fix that straight off the bat because it's easy. I'm going to place another tag here on hook end. Just name it hook end. And then go ahead and place down a lookout rotator. And have it look for hook start. Increase everything up to maximum amount, of course. And we're going to make another lookout rotator on our hook start end. And hand. Now, oh, this guy isn't looking in the correct direction. Yeah. Don't forget to set up your arrows with your look-at rotators. So this guy's going to look up, and then this guy's going to look down. There we go. Just forgot about that. And now we get nice wire or chain, whatever you want to spend your time on animating, or drawing, I should say. And next, we're going to go ahead and, let's see here. What do we want? Well, on our player here, we want to, we want to know if we grappled, and we want to also teleport to this guy here if we have grappled. So we're going to do a couple of things. We're going to have a couple of wireless transmitters on our hook end, and it's going to be hooked, and semi-hooked. And the difference between these is basically this is semi-hooked, which is meaning that we're playing the animation, and that one is going to be our full hook, meaning that we're going to play the animation to go there. And we're also going to teleport to our hook shot, or hook start, I should say. Alright, next, now that we have our semi-hooked and hooked states set up, we'll be able to hook into that with this and with our player. So when we are fully hooked, we want to let's see here, we want to play the same animation on this end basically, but this time is going to be a little bit easier because we're just going to move to our position. So now that we got the follower, I'm going to open up the properties of follower, change it to hook end for the tag, and you can do whatever speed you want, but you have to do 100% strength, 100% dampening. And in this case, when we do reach that spot, we want to disconnect, because we aren't going to be having that physics rope thing for now, because it does take a lot. So we're going to get the detach output. So we're going to want the wireless transmitter here, and we're going to change this to detach, the name at least of the wireless transmitter. So now we want to get a trigger zone. I'm going to make it for the grapple spot, and we're going to do about 1.5 meters. Again, can place that in the middle of our cube, like so. Alright, that's going to go into our detach here. And it's going to be pretty easy, because we just detach whenever. And wireless receiver, this one, honestly, I kind of forgot why I placed that here. Ah, yes, I think this was for full hooked, or hooked. Yeah, hooked. When we're hooked, we're going to go ahead and turn on this hook end, and we're going to go ahead and not gate And that's going to go for teleporter. So now all this should do really is move to there when we fire it. Like so. No? You should be following. Why aren't you following? Hooked. Ah, because it's not... There we go. But why isn't that working? I'm not sure. Let's try that again. Oh, it's working. Okay. It works. It works. So now we just need the player to teleport there, and we also want to set up the visibility correctly. So I'm going to go ahead and get this painting invisible by default. So we're just going to turn down the opacity all the way. And so I want this cube to be invisible permanently, basically. And this cube up here, I don't want this visible either. In play mode, that is. And let's see. What else do we need? Ah, yes, the player logic. So when we are hooked, or semi-hooked, when we're semi-hooked, we want to have this keyframe, but we want some additional data as well. We don't want to be able to move at all. And let's see here. We need, where are you? Wireless receiver. And we're going to be semi-hooked, and that's going to go and plug into our keyframe here. And we're also going to get a teleporter here, because we want a hooked input. And that's going to go ahead and be for, let's see, ah yes, our teleporter. And we also want to change our animation here. So the animation is just going to be above our head, grabbing hold of whatever it is above us, basically. Which would be grappling hook. And we want our teleporter to reflect that position, and we want to match target orientation as well, and it's going to be the hook start. Go and bring that up like so. So it's where the hand would be. And now we're going to hook that up to our hooked, and that hooked is going to hook up to our keyframe as well. And now we also want one last thing, where if we are hooked or semi-hooked, we don't want to be able to aim anymore. So we're going to hook up our NOT gate here, and we're going to go and make that plug into our AND gate, and it's also going to plug into our aim logic in here, into this calculator. Just doing it quick and sloppy for now. Alright, let's see how this looks. It worked, but it's not what I expected. Oh, that's great. I have no idea why he was spinning around like that. Okay, well, it works. It works, guys. That's it for this video, basically. I have no idea why he's spinning. There is no reason for him to spin. Hook start, match target orientation. I mean, I'll go into test mode and see if there's anything I'm missing. Well, I can't really see like this. Yeah, okay. That's kind of weird. So what we could do is we could use a mover, but then we wouldn't get the orientation. So I'm gonna try just teleporting to the orientation, and then I'm gonna get a mover. Or a follower, I mean. It's gonna do the same thing. It's gonna do really high speed, but not any more than it needs to be. And it's gonna be hook start. Now let's try that. Oh, wait. I do want to put this doohickey in the right position, the gizmo here. Not the leg, the gizmo. See if that looks any better. Well, we keep doing flips. I honestly don't know why that's happening. Let's see, hook end. Hook at rotator. I mean, it's at the maximum speed. There's no reason for it to flip out like that. X. C. Oh. That might be it. I don't know how the teleporter gizmo got down there. Could have sworn we moved it. But let's see. Also, that we do want to turn this around, I think. 180 degrees. Let's try that. Let's see if that works any better. No, we still backflip for some reason, but hey. I think it looks good. If you don't want it to do that, maybe animate it? Oh god, I don't know why that's happening. Is it the keyframe? You'd think it would be the keyframe. I can delete both the keyframes and see what happens. That's gonna miss, obviously. No, it's not the keyframes. Okay. Oh, you know what we could do? What we could do is just not have it teleport, and we can give it like an angle. We can fake it until we make it. And what else do we want? Oh yeah, we need the animation. Well, not the animation, but we want, if we're grappling hooking, we want the cable to show up, of course. Let's place down a keyframe on our hook end. Scope into here and go ahead and turn up the opacity of our cable. And that's just going to be hooked up onto either of our counters here. Both of them, I mean. Now let's see how it looks. There we go. Much better. Now I don't know if we're gonna have enough aim to get that. Nope, okay. Just barely out of our reach. Which is fine. I can just do that. But hey, yeah, we got a grappling hook now. I hope you enjoyed the video. Took quite a few days actually to research this and get this working properly. I haven't had much time to do much dream stuff recently. As you could probably tell, uploads have been slow. So I hope you enjoyed the video. And I will be putting out a part 2 at some point on how to add in the physics, like jumping around and stuff. Not jumping around, but like flopping around, I guess. Like swinging, yeah, swinging, like the grabbing tutorial thing that I had. Incorporating that with this. So you don't just, you know, look like you're teleporting like that. Alright, well, hope you enjoyed. Have a nice day. Also, support me on Patreon. Like, comment, and subscribe. Bye.